Hi, welcome to Elizabeth Ann Reads, and Merry Christmas. If all goes according to plan, this video will actually post on Christmas Day. So Merry Christmas. I hope you're having a great day. If you're not watching this on Christmas Day, that's okay. I hope you had a great day and enjoyed time with your family, or whatever your traditions are. I'm going to do the Christmas Carol book tag today. And I was tagged by Megan Hannett over at Megan Hannett. And this tag was originally created by Lauren Wade. So I will be sure and link both their channels down below. But I thought I had time to just squeak out one more Christmas tag before the season is over. The first prompt is The Ghost of Christmas Past, a book that was a childhood favorite. Now, I grew up reading a lot. I grew up in a family that read a lot, so I have lots of childhood favorites, and I struggled with which one to pick. But I decided to go with one that I don't think I've ever talked about on my channel. And in all honesty, I have never heard anyone outside of my family talk about this book. Not on BookTube, not in real life. This is, as far as I know, a completely obscure book, but I want to share it with you today. And it is The Invisible Island by Dean Marshall. I mean, you can see how old this copy is. This was my parents' that was passed on to me. And this is just a classic children's adventure story. It is about these 4 children who, at the beginning of the story, as all good adventure stories begin, they move to the country and they discover on their property there's kind of a little island that's just kind of created by the circumstances of the land, I guess you would say. Just little creeks or whatnot running through the property creates this island on their property, and they decide they want to be shipwrecked on the island for the summer. And it's full of adventure. It's full of who doesn't want to be shipwrecked on an island for the summer when you're a kid? And they set up camp. They build rafts to get over, and they set up camp, and they, run into some of the wildlife, like skunks that live on the island. They discover caves. They even encounter a fairy. It's so much fun. And if you can manage to get your hands on this book, good luck, because it's out of print and most library systems wouldn't have it. But if you stumble across a copy of this, absolutely pick it up and read it. It is so much fun. Prompt number 2 is The Ghost of Christmas Present, and this is a recent read that you think will become one of your new favorites. For this, I'm actually going to mention 2. The first is The Tenant of Wildfell Hall by Anne Bronte. I read this over the summer, and this definitely has staying power with me. This is one I will go back to just as often as I go back to Jane Eyre, probably more often, possibly more often. I'm already planning on rereading it in 2020 because I loved it so much, and I just think it's such an interesting, kind of unique story. Follows a woman with a child who, there's just kind of a little bit of mystery surrounding her past and what's gone on, and she is such a fantastic character. She's so smart and witty and so not afraid to kind of go against what society says she should be or do or say, or the way she should act with her son. I so loved this. There were so many great moments, great speeches that she gave, or just little one-liners, so good. And I will definitely go back to this time and time again. The other book I want to mention, I didn't grab it, but the other book I want to mention is Big Little Lies by Leanne Moriarty. I read this just a couple months ago, and I loved it. It was my first experience with Leanne Moriarty, and it will definitely be one I reread at some point in the future, and it definitely made me want to read more of her books. I just thought it was really interesting and a kind of a unique setup for a book, and I really loved that as well. Prompt 3, sorry, if you see me looking down a lot, it's because my laptop's here. Prompt 3 is The Ghost of Christmas Yet to Come, a book coming out next year that you're most excited about. Okay, there's a few. I'm going to mention real quickly the new prequel to The Hunger Games by Suzanne Collins is coming out. There's a few middle grade series that have the next one coming out. Excited about all of those. Frederick Bachman has a new book coming out. But top of the list, and I'm going to mention this one because it's top of my list. Also, it won't be mentioned on anyone else's. And that is Jasper Fforde has a new book coming out. So anytime Jasper Fforde has a new book coming out, that automatically is number 1 on my list. He is not as prolific as some authors are. He doesn't come out with books consistently. He did come out with one in 2018, but it had been, what, 5 years before that since he had come out with one, so I'm very excited. So it is called The Constant Rabbit, and it is coming out in the summer. It depends on where you look. It says July or August. And it is a standalone, or that's what it says at least, is that it's a standalone, not part of one of his series. And let me just read you the synopsis. Just a warning if you're unfamiliar with Jasper Fforde, he writes kind of weird books. So the synopses, whatever, they always sound a little odd. So just, it does sound weird. But here's the little synopsis. Peter Knox lives quietly in one of those small country villages that's up for the Village Garden of the Year award. Until Doc and Constance Rabbit move in next door, upsetting the locals, many of them members of governing political party United Kingdom Against Rabbit Population, complicating Peter's job as a rabbit spotter and forcing him to take a stand, moving from unconscious leporophobe to active supporter of the UK's amiable and peaceful population of anthropomorphized rabbits. So, yeah, that sounds fantastic. I'm looking forward to it. I will definitely be pre-ordering it, and I will read it as soon as it comes in the mail. Literally, I'll open the package and start reading it. So, yeah, that's what I'm most excited about. Okay, prompt number 4 is Bah Humbug, a book that everyone loves, but you can't stand. Okay, for this one, I'm going with The Handmaid's Tale by Margaret Atwood. Now, it has been a long time since I've read The Handmaid's Tale. I think I read it when I was right out of college, so it's probably been around 15 years. And I didn't like it then, and I have no intention of going back and rereading it, although it has crossed my mind. But I read it long before all the hype of the TV series, long before everyone was talking about it. I mean, it was talked about even back then, but before it was quite so mainstream as it is now. And I didn't like it at all. It sounds like a book I should like. I tend to like dystopians. I tend to like books like that where they kind of mess with how our society is viewed. But I didn't like anything about The Handmaid's Tale. I didn't like the way the women were portrayed. Not the way the women are treated. I mean, obviously I didn't like that either. But they're used, if you don't know, they're used basically as breeders, kind of. But I didn't like the way they acted. Again, it's been a long time, so I may not remember super clearly, but my memory is they just seemed very shallow and very silly and very not, I don't know, just not caring about anything important. They just, I don't know. I'm not describing it very well. Again, it's been a long time since I read it. Everyone loves it. It was definitely not for me. I have no interest in picking up anything else by Margaret Atwood. So unpopular opinion, but that's the whole point of this question. So, yeah, The Handmaid's Tale. All right, prompt number 5 is Bob Cratchit, an old dependable that you always recommend. This is kind of a hard prompt because it depends on who I'm recommending to. Obviously, there's a few books that are kind of my go-tos, but I'm not necessarily going to recommend them to everybody because they're not going to be good for everybody. There's a lot of books I could mention. I could mention The Princess Bride by William Goldman. I could mention The Blue Castle by Ellen Montgomery, which I'm not going to because I'm going to talk about that later. But I decided to go with Blackout and All Clear by Connie Willis. These are ones I recommend a lot, and I recommend to a wide variety of people. They're historical fiction. They're time travel historical fiction. So it's about a future where time travel is possible, but these time travel is used only for historians. They use it to study history and to understand history. So it's a very limited thing. But this is a duology, and it follows some characters that go to England during World War II and end up getting stuck there. I won't go into too much detail because you should read them, but they end up getting stuck in London during the Blitz. And they're so good. If you love historical fiction, I recommend these. If you like science fiction, I recommend these. If you don't know what you like, if you're not an experienced reader and you don't know what you like, I recommend these. So, read these. All right, prompt number 6 is Tiny Tim, an underhyped book that you think deserves more praise. We're going to go back to that one I mentioned just a minute ago, and that is The Blue Castle by Ellen Montgomery. Although, truthfully, I think I could say just about anything by Ellen Montgomery that's not Anne of Green Gables. Anne of Green Gables is a fantastic book, don't get me wrong, but Ellen Montgomery wrote a lot, and they're all fantastic books. But my heart belongs to The Blue Castle. Now, The Blue Castle has gotten a little bit of love on BookTube in the last year. A few people have been reading it, and as far as I know, everyone's been loving it, as they should. This follows Valancy Sterling, who is an old maid. I believe she's 27, and is therefore considered an old maid. And she just wakes up on her birthday and decides that's not true. Some things happen, and she decides that she is going to stop living the way everyone tells her that she should. Her life is very controlled by her mother and her aunt, and because of these events that happen, she just decides she's not going to allow that anymore, and she's going to do what she wants and say what she wants, and it's hysterical. And she just is such a beautifully written, just a lovely character with a beautiful heart, and it's just such a lovely story. And it gives me warm fuzzies. I'm not generally a warm fuzzy type of reader, but The Blue Castle I will reread almost yearly. I love it so much, and if you haven't picked it up, you definitely should. Prompt number 7 is Today, Why It's Christmas Day, which it is when you're watching this, maybe. What is a book that always gets you in the mood for Christmas? And for that, I'm going with a picture book, actually, and that is Bah Humbug by Lorna Balian. This was a book we read all the time as kids. Every Christmas, we'd get this out from the library, and then several years back, my parents bought each of us, myself and my brothers, each a copy of this. It says Christmas 2001, so a while back. And it's the story of this little girl, Margie, and her brother, Arthur, and it's Christmas, and Margie is getting all ready for Santa to come, and Arthur is saying it's silly, that Santa isn't real. And it has these just incredible illustrations. First of all, it has this teddy bear, Margie's teddy bear, whose name is Harold, and that's what she wants for Christmas, is a new fur coat for Harold, because he's getting kind of threadbare. But it goes through her writing her letter to Santa, and then Arthur decides that he's going to set a trap to catch Santa. And it just has these wonderful illustrations. And then it goes through several pages that are just told in illustrations. It's such a fun, cute book, and they come in, Santa comes in, spoiler alert, Santa Claus is real, comes in and has this whole conversation with Margie, and Arthur sleeps through it all. It's fantastic. My favorite little part, it's here in the corner. You can see Harold the bear. There's this other teddy bear in Santa's bag, and Harold is stuffing him back into the bottom of the bag. I love it. Anyway, so we read this every Christmas. I still read this every Christmas, and it's my Christmas book. So yeah, you should pick this one up for sure. And prompt number 8 is Muppet Christmas Carol. What is your favorite movie adaptation? I'm not a big movie watcher. I have seen several different adaptations, but I don't go back to any of them except for Mickey's Christmas Carol, the version with Mickey and Scrooge, and Muppet Christmas Carol. I don't watch that one every year, but I watch it fairly regularly. But I do watch Mickey's Christmas Carol every year, so that's probably my favorite adaptation. And then question 9, or prompt number 9, is to tag some people. It's Christmas Day, so I'm not going to tag anyone because I'm going to assume no one's going to do this after Christmas. Anyway, that's it. Again, I hope you're having or had a Merry Christmas. Thank you for taking the time to watch this video.